Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the other apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations to you brothers out there on the highways and byways pushing this truth and sincerity. It's the brother Yawadan. I just want to do a lesson on the spirit of being your own worst enemy, and kind of weighing in on the topic. Has been a heavy subject in Israel recently, as of late. I know Elder Kabar did a heavy sit down that I watched today on the subject. And then there's been a lot of brothers out there that have been pushing, videos out on this subject of ourselves being our own worst enemies, man. And I wanted to give kind of a testimony to, some of the things that as a man of the Lord you should expect yourself to do, and then also some of the things that you might have been doing in a previous life before, you came in the truth or in the past lives. So with that, I'm going to start with Sirach chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "My son, if thou comest to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble." So as a servant of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, prospectively, it's something that we should expect when we are brought into this truth, being born again in the Spirit, to be afflicted and to find temptation and sin abundant. And through time, it only gets worse. And I've only been in this truth for a very short time, but like the elders will always say, elders in other camps, that this truth has a level to it. And every time you get comfortable, every time you get stable, the Lord will throw a new temptation at you in an attempt to refine you and build you in the spirit and in the faith. So it says, "My son, if thou comest to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." Like I said, it's an expectation for us to realize in this thing that it's not easy. That moment we get comfortable is a moment of uncertainty, that we constantly need to strive to push ourselves to achieve that next level of perfection. And ultimately, the elect will achieve that level of perfection through the Spirit. Like, they will be changed in an instant in those final times, in the proceedings of Jacob's trouble. It says, "Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end." And ultimately, the only people that are going to obtain that perfection, whether it's through the resurrection after death or being sucked up by those chariots in those final times, are going to be the elect. Those are the ones that cleaved on to the Lord in unity and in order and in perfection. That was acceptable to the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. They did not depart away. All right, so the increase in the last end is being perfect spiritually. No more sin. That elect priesthood is going to have the first fruit in the rebuilding of the nation of Israel with Yahushai. They're going to have those perfect bodies. They're going to have that perfect spirit to where they'll never go off again. You know what I mean? They'll never go off again in the spirit. All right. It says, "For whatsoever is brought up against thee, take cheerfully and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate." So, something might come up in life, or something like I was saying, you get comfortable, you're on a schedule and repetition, and, getting comfortable is not something safe to do in this truth. Like I said, the Most High will throw a curveball at you in your life to keep you on edge. And ultimately, this is a training ground. As hell, we're in the pits of our captivity in this hell, in this man's system. And what it is the devil's playground. Here it is, you have Satan leveling you up on a spiritual level to make you more refined in the truth. Either that or flush you out of the truth, depending upon what the Lord's will is for you. All right, so we're supposed to take this truth and hold on to it as tight as we can. Because when we're being shaken in that sieve, Lord's testing our spirit, we should be grateful and cheerful that we're being tempted to fall out, that we're even, prospected to be thought as potential righteous men that will become the elect, if it is the Lord's will that you be that. So we should take pain and suffering. We should take our day-to-day experiences when we go off as bad as we feel. Lord knows I speak for myself first, that we should be cheerful in the sense that we're able to even suffer for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So just like you would take an ore, and I use this comparison quite frequently, but just as you would refine a metal, if you were a blacksmith, you would have to refine that ore, that crude element, after it's harvested from the earth, in order for it to become a more concentrated metal, a more purified metal, so it doesn't have impurities in it. If you look at a metal and it has impurities in it, the things that it would make the metal do is it would be unreliable if it was a sword or a tool. Those impurities would make its integrity of itself compromised. So we have to be refined in this truth in the same sense that we have to be purified from our carnal lives, our lives that we had walked before in this world and in our previous lives that were contrary to sound doctrine. All right, knowing and we should be cheerful and rejoicing when we get chastised by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, or things get mixed up and get harder, for us to be thankful and to be hopeful that the Lord continues to deal with us. Get back up and keep fighting. Believe in him and he will help thee. Order thy way aright and trust in him. So with the Lord, as it is written, he never will let you down, man. And that's in the same scripture. It's a little bit further down, but we got to believe in the Most High. We have to pray and pray and have faith in our praying that whatever we're dealing with at that particular time is something that we can get through if it is the Lord's will. And being humble enough to look at ourselves in the mirror and know that not only are we not worthy for this prospective position we're in, but the Lord may have it that you're not something that he, panned out, man, that you're not something that he or somebody that he's dealing with or wants to be of the elect. And that at any time he could cast you out. We all have a purpose to fulfill, and what that purpose is already preordained. So we got to believe in the Lord, believe in through rejoicing and having faith and praying without ceasing, that we can endure these demons, endure these afflictions, endure our own mind and mental state, knowing that internally we have the greatest war inside our own minds every day. When you wake up, your first thought is to do something carnal. Or when you go to sleep, your first thought might be to do something carnal. Or in between the day, you have countless temptations, whatever walk of life that you live. But this is all about being refined, acceptable men in the furnace of adversity, being able to be fundamentally capable of handling different aspects of adversity, whether that be, capable of handling something in the world, or handling something with a woman, or handling something with anger, or your own personal problems, or addiction, whether it's substance abuse or things like that, things of that nature. All right. We have to be tested in ourselves to know that no matter what it is, that the Most High will increase our ability to refrain from carnality and help us and keep us sound in this doctrine. And the elect won't fail, man. The elect will make it through that. Right? Romans 6:1, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? And that's ultimately what we are, man. We're dead. With sin, there's nothing that will ever abound with sin. There's nothing that'll ever come from a carnal mind state, being and living in this flesh. So when we war with ourselves mentally every day, we have to remember that no matter what we do, without this truth, we are dead. There's no hope for us. There's no hope in this life. It doesn't matter what type of school that you go to. It doesn't matter what type of position that you think you can put yourself in. Without Yahweh Bashem Yahushai as an Israelite and with this truth, man, without these scriptures, our hope is zero, is zilch. So keep that in mind when we're warring with ourselves and warring with our mind, trying to balance ourselves out the best we can between the flesh and the spirit. What our goal is, what our hope is to achieve, and that's perfection. And you gotta, I speak of myself personally. I despise it myself when I sin. I have a hard time looking at myself in the mirror when I do things that I know are scripturally incorrect. And it really bothers me because myself personally, I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to have to sin anymore. I don't want to have to disappoint the Creator anymore. And that's all we are, disappointments, man. So we got to do the best we can to be better and, stay on that path, that narrow path. And the elect, no matter how many times fall, they will stay on that path, man. Know ye not that so many of us were baptized into Yahushua HaMashiach, were baptized into Yahushua HaMashiach, were baptized into his death, right? So this is something that, through the Spirit, the Most High's blood, Yahushua's blood covers his elect, man. So we don't have a choice being potential prospects in this truth, being called out of our slumber to not attempt to be the best that we can be, to not war with our flesh every day, to tell yourself, no, I can't do that. You get tempted by Satan, no, I can't do that. Would the Most High want me to do that? And hey, if you do it, it's not the end of the world. Repent and come back. And you gotta pick yourself up, because that's where the true integrity of a man is. Take the challenge of this truth and try the best that you can and be a good soldier for the Most High, man. All right. We don't have an obligation because Yahushua Mashiach died for his elect. And you being a prospect in this truth, you could very well be a part of that number of the elect. All right. Therefore, we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Hamashiach was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in the newness of life. So not only is that getting into, having to potentially die in this truth, such as Hamashiach had to die during his crucifixion when he walked on this earth, that's also referring to the spirituality of waking up out of sleep, out of death, because being ignorant to the truth would ultimately lead to our own death. Not being a part of this gospel, this ministry, will ultimately lead to death. All right, unless the Lord has chosen you, preordained you to be a part of his elect, called you into walk into the newness, that new suit, man, that new lifestyle, which is this truth. For if we have been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also in the likeness of his resurrection. So as he died physically, we died spiritually until we were chosen to be awoken again, as it will be in that day when we may potentially, like I said, have to give our lives up for this truth. When it comes down to that choice at that point in time, if the Lord's dealing with you, if you're a part of his elect, you won't be ashamed or even conscious of giving your own life for something like this. All right. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. So, like I said, both ways that goes for waking up out of our spiritual slumber and putting that old man off of ourselves and clinging onto the spiritual body. Now, granted, we won't be able to do that in perfection, at least right now, but it's imperative that we do the best we can to lean towards the spiritual side for guidance. All right, because sin, like I said, without this truth, without this ministry, we're going to die anyways. So it's more about the principle of what we're doing right now that we do need to be weary of, you know, because to serve sin ultimately will result in death. For he that is dead is freed from sin. Now, if we be dead with Hamashiach, we believe that we shall also live with him. So, like I said, it's a sacrifice, you know, and warring against ourselves, being our own worst enemies, we have to sacrifice our own lives. You know, when that ultimately potentially could come to your own death, your own demise, which is no problem, especially if the Lord has the spirit of you being the elected on you. That's not a problem. But we should also have the potential to live with him. All right. So we have to die, give up our own wants, our own wills, give up our family, our children, you know, our interests, our hobbies, our vices. Lord knows we have an innumerable amount of vices. Speaking, you know, myself personally, you know. So with that sacrifice, that war will not go unpaid, man. That sacrifice, that regeneration through the Spirit, man, you will be compensated for that. You know, not that you should want to be right for the Lord because of material gain, but if you think about it, man, you know, what are we really living for on this side? So ultimately, we need to give up our wants and our wills and fight that physical body that we fight every day to obtain unto everlasting life with the Spirit. Second Timothy 2:1. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Hamashiach Yahushai, and the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. So through the Spirit, you know, at the time that this was written in antiquity, the same men, the same apostles and disciples, through the regeneration, are here today. And see, this is a thing of men. The Lord has ordained certain men to wake his elect and his chosen prophets out of their sleep. And those men were preordained as they did in previous lives to put off that old man, to put off that physical, carnal spirit, and strive for mastery of the spirit, man. All right, to be teachers, to be examples to the congregation, that 144,000, the 1/3, that unit, that in perfection with the true and undisputed gospel and doctrine. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And that's what we're doing, a soldier in the spirit, to have to soldier a war in your own mind every day. When you wake up and, you know, there's something pressing on you, there's demons on you, you know, there's spirits that are designed to become a burden and a weight on your shoulders to try and crack you, to try and break you. So, you know, this thing of being a soldier is important because we have to fight. The biggest person we have to fight is ourselves. You know, that's why I said that, you know, we are our own worst enemies in this truth. Ultimately, we will be the ones that either A, you know, do what we need to do to get right, or B, don't. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, that all comes down through predestination and through the Most High's will. But you know, through the Spirit, that was already determined, man. And every man will do that. He'll either get right and fight his flesh every day, or he won't. And that goes for the Spirit. That goes for all kinds of things, man. But mainly, I just wanted to get on this because it hit my spirit that, you know, looking at myself in the mirror every day, knowing that, you know, myself is exponentially wicked, you know, and that the majority of my problems lie with my own mind and lie within my own being itself. And it eats you up because all you want to do is be perfect, but you can't. At least not right now. As we're going to get to that at some point here soon, the elect, Lord willing, they will receive those perfect bodies. So we have to soldier through our own personal wants and wills. We have to rejoice when adversity and admonishment and persecution come. Being in this truth, being prospective members of the elect. Trying out for that team, and you may or you might not make it based upon your tryout and your performance. 1 Timothy 1:9, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for the sinners, for the unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. So that's what this law was aimed towards. And that's why Yahushua, when he walked on the earth, he would deal mostly with the public, people that weren't already a part of what at that time would be considered as the church. All right, because that's what this truth is geared around. Like the scriptures say, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. That's because the spiritual kings are on the bottom of the earth right now. Those men that have the true spiritual wisdom and understanding were prophesied to be the lowest people in captivity. As it is written, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. All right. So being our own worst enemies, we deal with things that we have done in our past. For me, it was substance abuse and things like that, or previous ties or bad influences that you used to hang around, or, where Satan will try and tempt you to remember your previous life. But being a man of the Lord, you're going to stay in this truth. You're going to keep fighting those urges to be carnal, those urges to, go back into the world, knowing that that previous lifestyle would have ultimately resulted in death. Anything but this ministry will result in death. And even this ministry will result in death. So it's more about the principle of what you're fighting for. So we might as well continue to fight for the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. According to the glorious gospel of the blessed God, which was committed to my trust. And I thank Hamashiach Yahushai, our Lord, who hath enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry. So the Lord has chosen each one of his prospects for a particular reason, for them to fulfill a purpose and or to ultimately potentially be the elect. All right, so it doesn't matter what life we lived before. The biggest thing is that we had been selected to try out for the greatest team that there will ever be. In a worldly comparison, the greatest team, like if you were in sports that you could ever potentially try out for. And that's this ministry, potentially being a part of that 144,000. All right, so we have to war ourselves. We have to war because we've been selected. You don't want to have to let the Lord down. And I really wanted to hit this because it was hit my spirit, because every now and again you'll slip up and you'll mess up, and that's a part of this truth, realizing that we'll never be perfect. It's hard to bite and chew, especially being new in the truth. But that's something that I'm working with. Every brother works with at some point or another. And we gotta continue to fight and do the best we can in the ministry, because we've been chosen to do so. Fighting ourselves mainly. All right, because Satan will get into your mind and manipulate you into making a bad decision or sinning. All right, and potentially even knocking you out of the truth completely. That's his job. The Lord created him to do it, and of course, Shaitan, being Shaitan, is good at what he does. who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious, but I obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly in unbelief. And that's the thing now, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard because before, you knew not the things of the law in the beginnings of your life. All right, it wasn't until you were awoken out of your slumber and realized the responsibilities that we have and that we are expected of currently by the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, that what we were doing in our past lives was completely unacceptable. Anything that's contrary to sound doctrine, like it says a few verses above that. I did it ignorantly, so now we can't do it. We're not ignorant anymore. Now we know the truth and we know what the Lord expects of us. So we can't sin and say, "Oh, well, it'll be all right. I'll fast extra next week, or I'll do this, or I'll tithe more, or there's no equal balance for sacrifice anymore. The only sacrifice the elect have in the 1/3 is through the blood of Hamashiach, and that's probably not necessarily something that you want to play with. So, amen. And of course, like I said, we can't be perfect in this truth. We got to continue to fight that flesh and fight this war that is going on within our own minds every single day. And then not only that, but we have to add that into the entire balance of the world and whatever respective brothers are doing at any given time when they're, dealing with their day-to-day lives. And the grace of our Lord was exceedingly abundant with faith and love, which is in Hamashiach Yahushai. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation that Hamashiach Yahushai came into this world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Came into this world to save his sinners, which are the Israelites, the sinners of his elect. Because we're all sinning. There's no doubt about that. We're all sin. We all fall short of salvation by far. All right, but the Most High and Yahushua HaMashiach has set it up to where Yahushua came to this earth and gave his life so that the sinners of his elect, such as the apostle, can be saved, which through the spirit and regeneration of the Israelites through blood is here today in these final and end times. All right, so we have to do the best we can to not perpetrate sin willingly, and knowingly. And like I said, of course, that's going to be impossible to be perfect, but at the same time, we have to do the best we can to fight that flesh, fight our flesh and fight the world, fight carnality, fight Shaitan. 1 Corinthians 15:51, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. All right, that mystery of being changed, man, see, because we started off in this world, in this life, not knowing the truth, not knowing where we would be when we were given the truth, or that we would even be in the situation or predicament that we're in now. At least I didn't. So the mystery of this truth to me, and not even to me, but through the spirit, man, would be, that we're not all asleep now. See, there's going to be people, a large portion of the earth, of our own people and the heathens, that are going to sleep until they die, until they get that judgment. All right. But see, there's been a prospective amount of people, of men and women and children, that the Lord is dealing with on a spiritual level, that are not going to sleep. And through that not sleeping, strive for the mastery of the truth. And those fulfilling righteousness in a long time fulfilled it in a short time. All right. They were changed. And see, that's what's going to happen is, see, as much as we hate ourselves for being unable to be perfect, or unable to be perfect, at some point soon, the elect are going to get that spiritual power, that new body, and be changed. So this is the hope that we have, the hope that we have to eventually be perfect like our Creator and his Son. To me, there wouldn't be anything that's more important than that, finally stopping from going off and disappointing the Lord. So that's what we're striving for. We continue to fight this war, being our own worst enemies, knowing that eventually, if it be His will, we may be changed to have that perfection. It says, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the end, or the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So you're gonna have corruptible men, being sinners that we are, like the apostle said, knowing that we are chief, that he was chief in sinning. Knowing that I'm looking at myself, know that I'm a sinner, and that no matter what we do, we can't escape this captivity and this corruptibleness without Yahweh Shai and Yahweh, man. All right. So at that point, the dead shall be changed. They'll be resurrected. The men that are still alive, they're going to be sucked up in those chariots, and they're going to be changed spiritually. They're going to shed these filthy vessels off that we're wearing currently, and be given that body 2.0, man. Because this 1.0 suit right now is corruptible. You know, you know, allowed to die through sin and through corruption and filth, man. All right, those new bodies are not going to be able to sin anymore. You're not going to have wicked thoughts anymore. You're not going to have those temptations where Satan's going to be able to get to you or send legions of demons to you and try and persuade you in leaving the truth, or, do some type of ungodly shit. For this corruptible must put on an incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass this saying that is written, death is swallowed up by victory. And see, through this whole time, through the creation of death and sin, through Eve and Adam in Genesis, the whole world went through everything it went through, knowing who the wicked were, knowing who the righteous were, knowing who the Lord's children were, knowing that we were all dead, that we all died countless times because of one thing, that we could not be perfect, that we could never keep the law of the Lord perfectly, more to the Israelites. All right, but through us not following the laws, the heathens given dominance over us and power over us have completely destroyed the world. So not only will, when the elect escape that death, man, when death is swallowed up through victory, through perfection, through be given those bodies, those 2.0 bodies, everything is going to be set correctly, in order and in balance. See, through those men, everyone in the nation of Israel, man, woman, and child, Lord willing, will come back through those elect and be given that body of that 2.0, that spiritual body. And then there will be establishment and order and perfection and grace, not only within the nation of Israel finally, but throughout the whole world. With the King of all kings ruling, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, and King Dawadah, and the 144,000 Bachayar, the elect, that's going to be the end all be all, the cure. You have Esau, which is the virus, Satan, Shaitan, which is the virus, our own minds, which are the virus, that we need to sacrifice and put away to hope and strive for these 2.0 bodies. Lord willing, that death is swallowed up in victory. All right, man. Hopefully this was edifying. For now, I say shalom.